I don't really want to fuck with that. Back to square one. I mean, I could just sit here in the shade. So, in the lifespan of all strength training people who eventually get interested in powerlifting, the question comes up, when should I compete? When can I compete? How strong do I need to be to do my first competition? And if you've ever watched a video on this subject before, my first answer is going to be something you've probably heard before, which is that you, of course, do not need to have any particular level of strength to compete. You can compete at any strength level. As a beginner, some people might say things like, oh, you need to have, done 6 to 12 months of powerlifting training at least to sort of, understand the movements. It's like, no, once you have some grasp of the movements and you want to do a competition, go ahead and do it. You're ready for it. Just train, or train some amount. Don't take it that seriously, and do your competition. The most important thing is just to have fun. But that's not the whole story, right? People look at people online, you get interested in powerlifting, you start looking at what are people doing online. You start looking at what are people in my body weight do? What are the world records at my body weight, and so on and so forth. And you think that your lifts, a lot of people think this. I have been one of these people. I think most of the other coaches have felt this at some point. You look at other people and you think, damn, my lifts are nothing compared to what some other people are doing. Like, oh man, should I be embarrassed about what I can do? And of course the answer is no, of course you shouldn't. And there's all kinds of things I could say about how it's not really worthwhile comparing yourself to the best, especially when you're newer to these things. But that's not the standard of competing at all. That's the standard of the best in the world. And like all sports, right? If we're going to play some indoor soccer on a Friday night with your friends, you wouldn't worry about, well, how good am I at indoor soccer, right? Maybe if the team's really competitive, but if it's a fun game, you just show up and play because it's fun. And powerlifting is really just the same thing. Don't let anyone convince you that just because it's lifting a barbell and it's serious means that you need to have some level of competency. You can just do it. And sometimes I say these sorts of things to people, and they say to me, well, of course you'd say that, Hugh, because you're strong. And of course, compared to plenty of people, I'm really not that strong. But to give you some idea of where I started, I'll tell you what sorts of numbers I did in my first meet. When I first started lifting, I've been lifting for several years, but I did my first real 3-lift powerlifting meet in 2018. And I squatted 152.5, failed 160, I benched 120, deadlifted 217.5, failed 227.5. And again, that's there are people who should and can do, lots and lots of people who should do a meet before achieving those numbers or not worry about those numbers. And there are many people whose first meets are far in excess of those numbers. And I was probably one of the weakest people in that group. I think I was, second last or something in terms of the total I did that day. But it wasn't important. I had my goals. I wanted to lift such and such. I didn't achieve them, but I did have a lot of fun and made me want to come back and do it again. Well, here I am. But all you've got to do is decide this is actually what you want to do. And if it's what you want to do, don't let yourself be held back by what numbers you're lifting now. So that's my long-winded way of saying that don't get in your head about what you need to do. If it seems like it will be fun, let it be fun, go do it. Thanks for watching. If you have any other questions about powerlifting, first meets, what you might want to do when you're preparing for your first meet, send us a message and we'll do our best to help you out. Take care. Thanks for watching.
Come on, let's go! Come on, drive it!